Welcome to this presentation from Insulation Manufacturers Association. We hope the presentation is both informative and enjoyable. The presentation consists of 12 sections as follows: the aims and objectives of the presentation, some background about IMA, a general introduction, information about different types of spray foam, where spray foam can be used and the applications on domestic roofs, what happens during a pre-installation survey, how spray foam is installed, information about surveying existing properties, recording observations, assumptions, evidence, opinions and conclusions. Let us first outline the aims and objectives of this presentation. In early 2023, IMA worked with a number of stakeholders, including the Property Care Association, the Residential Property Surveyors Association, the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, Nationwide and others, to produce a protocol for surveyors who encounter spray foam installations applied to the pitched elevations of domestic roofs. This presentation, which should be considered in conjunction with the protocol, has been produced to give visual examples of advice and situations outlined in the protocol. It is not designed to be prescriptive, but it can be used to guide and inform building professionals, institutional bodies, and trade organisations. The protocol is available from the IMA website and the Property Care Association website. The presentation will help you to visually interpret the protocol, increase your knowledge about spray foam insulation in domestic roofs, understand the installation when you encounter it, what to look for, how to interpret the information, and provide a reasoned conclusion about the installation. Learn more about why spray foam is an acceptable insulation material. To put things into perspective, we will now provide you with some background information about IMA. Insulation Manufacturers Association, also known as IMA, is the representative body for the rigid polyisocyanurate and polyurethane insulation industry in the UK. These products are commonly known as PIR and PUR. Membership comprises the major companies in the industry, including manufacturers of finished PIR insulation boards, spray foam manufacturers, and suppliers of the various raw materials and associated services. IMA works closely with many government and non-governmental organisations involved in areas affecting the production and use of PIR and PUR insulation products. It is widely accepted that insulation is the single most important energy-efficient element in the specification of a building. Ensuring that the fabric of a building is insulated is the most cost-effective and easiest way to improve its energy efficiency, regardless of whether the building is old or new. Greater energy efficiency means that less energy is needed to either heat or cool a building. In turn, this can lead to lower fuel consumption, lower energy bills, greater comfort for the consumer, and fewer carbon emissions to damage the environment. Spray foam has been used successfully in the UK, Europe, and worldwide for more than 40 years and is a valuable addition to improving the energy efficiency of many buildings. It is estimated that more than 250,000 properties in the UK have been treated with spray or injected foam insulation, improving thermal performance and, in some cases, acoustic performance for building occupants, as well as reducing fuel bills. Spray foam can make an important contribution to the thermal performance of a building, especially when retrofitting existing buildings, although its uses and benefits are wide-ranging and can also be used in new build applications. The successful longevity of spray foam applications has resulted in many properties being bought, sold, and mortgaged over time to the satisfaction of lenders, insurers, and homeowners, and the products can continue to perform as intended. We will now look at how spray foam is made and what gives it its essential characteristics. Spray foam is formed via an exothermic or heat-releasing chemical reaction between generally equal amounts in volume of a formulated polyol blend and PMDI. The video shows the reaction process. Within seconds of application, the foam achieves a tack-free state when the foam surface is no longer sticky. The formulated polyol is a mixture of polyols and other chemicals that have specific roles in the reaction process or impart important characteristics to the finished foam insulation. These chemicals may include catalysts, blowing agents, fire retardants, and/or surfactants, which are strictly controlled by a regulatory framework. When cured, which takes around 24 hours, spray foam is non-hazardous and poses no risk to building occupants. There are two types of spray foam. The video on the left-hand side is of an open cell foam. These are foams where the cells are not completely encapsulated, but they still provide air tightness. The foam is a softer, more flexible material. Open cell foam facilitates vapor diffusion and bidirectional drying. It typically has a density of around 7 to 10 kilograms per meter cubed. The video on the right-hand side is a closed cell foam. Cells inside a closed cell foam do not allow air to pass through the foam, thus maintaining an airtight barrier, but do permit low levels of water vapor to pass through, so there is no buildup of moisture. Closed cell foam has a higher density, typically around 35 to 40 kilograms per meter cubed, and is more solid and stable in its structure with a smoother finish. The manufacturers of spray foam insulation within IMA membership are responsible professional companies operating in an international arena. There are strict regulations and codes that govern the use of these products, such as UK REACH and COSH, as well as many other workplace regulations. When insulating the roof of a domestic building, spray foam must be installed in line with the manufacturer's instructions and must be carried out by a registered, trained, and qualified professional spray foam installer. IMA has developed a code of practice for installers, which sets out the requirements for the procedures involved when specifying and installing spray foam products to the inside of roofs of domestic properties. The process will include pre-installation surveys, including a roof condition analysis, condensation risk analysis, product identification and supply information, as well as a post-installation homeowner pack. This information should be made available to lenders and surveyors who can use it to support their decisions about mortgage finance. All IMA spray foam members' products are independently tested to achieve BBA or Kiwa BDA certification, and installation must be carried out in line with this certification in order to validate performance. Although spray foam and injected foam can be used in a wide variety of projects, including pitched and flat roofs, timber and masonry walls, as well as suspended and solid concrete floors, this presentation only concentrates on the use of spray foam in domestic pitch roofs. It can be used in retrofit applications in existing buildings as well as in new build applications. In terms of domestic pitched roofs, spray foam can be used with low or high resistivity membranes or with sarking board. The paperwork supporting any application will indicate that the manufacturer has the relevant third-party certification. To give some context to the protocol, it may be helpful for building professionals to learn about the survey which is carried out before a spray foam installation is made. When carrying out a survey on a property, the installer of a properly installed spray foam system carries out a series of checks prior to commencement of any work. This should always be done by a suitably competent employee of an approved installer. We will now take you through the process that an installer must adhere to in order to validate the third-party certification. Before carrying out an installation, the approved installer carries out a series of pre-installation checks to make sure the building is suitable to receive spray foam, and whether an open or closed cell foam is to be used. A visual inspection of the roof condition internally and externally is carried out to establish if any pre-installation repairs are necessary. Moisture readings are taken at various random points across the roof timbers, as shown. Acceptable readings will be below 20% and will vary from day to day and season to season. The pre-installation checks and roof survey will allow a full condensation risk analysis to be produced. The installer also checks the details of any background ventilation, for example, whether fans have been ducted out of the building correctly and what type of membranes are in place, and if they are high resistivity or low resistivity. Photographic evidence of the condition of the roof space before installation may also be taken. All these findings are documented and made available to the homeowner. The approved installer also returns a copy to the manufacturer for the purposes of record keeping or property mortgage and other records. Once the survey has been completed and everything is satisfactory, arrangements for the installation can be made. Spray foam insulation cannot be carried out as a DIY project. It is important that it is carried out by a registered installer who is approved and trained and monitored by the manufacturer of the product being installed. You will see in this video that the process is carefully controlled from the installer's vehicle. The product installed must have a third-party certificate for fitness for purpose, such as a BBA certificate or a Kiwa BDA agreement. Each certificate is individual to the product and its application, and is audited and reissued every 3 years. This video shows spray foam being applied. You will see how the product is sprayed in a very thin layer, which then expands to a much thicker insulation layer. This open-celled foam does not provide a smooth surface. This is normal, but you will see that it is uniform in thickness overall. Once the installation is complete, the installer leaves the roof space in a tidy condition. A homeowner pack is left after the installation, which should include, but may not be limited to, a pre-installation evaluation of the roof detailing the condition of the principal roof coverings, the nature, composition, and condition of the underlay or sarking, and the condition and moisture content of the roofing timbers. A high-growth thermal evaluation or condensation risk assessment. A copy of the third-party product accreditation document, BBA or Kiwa. Information confirming details of the installer and their credentials, together with copies of warranties or insurance-backed guarantees. An abbreviated version is left in the loft space detailing the installer, date of installation, product type, and batch and certification details, and who to contact to gain the other details. Spray foam has been used successfully for many years, with little evidence of damage to the property caused by the product when installed correctly. Many properties with products installed 25 or more years ago still perform satisfactorily, with no issues to the roof structure and where mortgages have been issued successfully. For those whose primary discipline is not building assessment, it is advisable to seek additional training or utilize the services of a trained and competent specialist. Building professionals should only report on issues commensurate with their experience, skill, and knowledge. This is particularly important where detailed and intrusive inspection and evaluation is necessary. It is increasingly understood that the presence of a complete homeowner pack is a strong indication of a correct and professional installation, and should therefore require no further inspection, as the information required will be in the pack. Should an inspection be required because there is no homeowner pack, it is recommended that the following equipment is taken: a means to access the roof space, a moisture meter to take moisture readings at various parts of the roof space, a camera to take pictures of the roof space condition, a thickness gauge to check the thickness of the foam. Any inspection should identify and record a number of parameters in line with the protocol document, such as the nature of construction, the approximate age of the roof and details of intersecting structures, evidence of repairs, renewals or additions, construction features of the pitched roof, condition of the supporting structures and roof, condition of the roof void or rooms below, the moisture content of significant roof timbers, ventilation. The surveyor also needs to assess whether the foam has been applied uniformly and evenly to the industry acceptable standard. The image you see on the left shows a good installation of a closed cell foam, which has a fairly smooth surface, whereas the image on the right is of an open cell foam. Note that the surface finish here is not smooth, but that the thickness is consistent throughout the application. In particular, open cell spray foam has a popcorn-type appearance, which is perfectly normal and acceptable. IMA members have fully trained installers in line with their third-party certification. However, you may come across some historic installations that do not meet these high standards. The photos you can see show two correctly installed applications for both open and closed cell products. In these photos, you will see cracks and gaps in the installation of the spray foam. Whilst these are not perfect, provided all other survey checks are satisfactory, additional spray foam can be added to bring the installation up to the required finish. Other application defects may be encountered, such as uncured product, as shown on the left, or an inadequate amount of spray foam on the right. Again, these can be remediated by the addition of further spray foam. If further investigation is necessary from a trained and competent specialist, they should be able to demonstrate the following expertise: skills and knowledge to evaluate the vapor performance characteristics of various types of underfelts, sarking, and vapor control layers. Familiarity with the requirements of BS 5250/2021 and an understanding of condensation risk assessments. Be able to undertake invasive and non-invasive investigations to roofing timbers to evaluate moisture content and understand the implications of elevated moisture contents. Be able to identify poor installation, which may be capable of being repaired, workmanship, or design of the spray foam installation. When inspecting a roof with spray foam insulation, the surveyor should record the visual factual information relating to the roof as outlined in the protocol. If there is no homeowner pack, surveyors who carry out visual inspections and create reports for domestic properties must record their informed assumptions if relevant, and state any limitations of the inspection. Assumptions should be reasonable, measured, and justifiable. In the next slide, we will give some examples of assumptions that may be appropriate when the surveyor is aware that spray foam has been applied within the roof of a domestic property as listed in the protocol. Such assumptions are: whether the roof underlay is consistent and uniform in type, that the roof covering is undamaged and no leaks are present, where documentation exists, the contractor who supplied the handover pack is responsible for the work that has been undertaken. When hygrothermal evaluations or condensation risk assessments have been supplied by suitably trained and qualified practitioners, these accurately reflect the ongoing condensation risk. Whether encapsulated timbers are of a uniform and consistent material, quality and condition throughout. Valleys and flashings are visibly intact when inspected in normal conditions and no leaks are present. Assumptions should only be made when there is no written or observed information to call them into doubt. To establish a balanced and reasoned conclusion, the surveyor needs to clarify the evidence used during the inspection. The following methodology sets out the processes that can be used and the documentation that can be relied upon when carrying out the inspection. The methodology might include a homeowner pack, visual inspection of the readily accessible parts of the roof, photographic record of condition for future review, use of industry-standard moisture meters to take comparative readings, questions asked of the property owner, review of documentation provided. On a small number of occasions, there could be some installations which do not meet the required standard. Evidence for this might include rain penetration, condensation, mold, or adverse overstressing of structural components, that the product has been installed properly and there is nothing that might reasonably impact on the forward performance of the roof. Any seasonal factors that might affect the reasoned conclusion. Having followed the route in this presentation and the protocol, a surveyor should be confident to provide a reasoned conclusion sufficient to guide the client to an acceptable course of action. Recommendations that follow the provision of a professional opinion or conclusion should be provided by a suitably trained and competent professional. This may be the surveyor or some other person or company that can demonstrate the appropriate levels of skill and competency to do so. The work would lead to three possible conclusions: that the risk of defects to the property is not significantly increased by the presence of spray foam and no action is needed at this time, that further investigation and information is needed before a conclusion can be offered, such as repairs and remediation, that there may be a risk of defects to the property by the presence of spray foam, and that further advice is needed in order to assign measures that will mitigate these risks. If you have any queries regarding any of the content, please do not hesitate to visit our website www.insulationmanufacturers.org.uk. Thank you for watching this presentation, which we hope that you have found useful. To download a copy of the protocol, please visit our website